This painting is a lie. Neat, triumphant, and above all, white. Sagrajas 1086 was none of these things. When Africa's Moors attacked the armies of King Alfonso VI on Spanish plains, the Castilian king could only wish that his was the sword raised aloft against the recoiling Berber captain. But history gives a very different account of events, one completely opposite to this pictorial fiction, colored in from an 1872 woodcut engraving. For one, Alfonso never got this close to the author of his humiliation. At 77 years of age, Yusuf ibn Tashfin, commander of the Muslims, directed the battle from afar, not nearing the fray, and the bloodbath he had commenced caused him and his men to know Sagrajas by another name, a double entendre, Zalaka, Battle of the Steep or Slippery Place, slippery with Spaniard blood. This painting then is part of a persistent tradition of the whitewashing of history, long unchallenged from the earliest days of European ascendancy, surviving well past the John Wayne epoch of storytelling, until now. What you're about to hear and see is the truth about the Battle of Sagrajas, the truth about Spain's darkest day. Except you can't understand any of it without first coming to terms with the man who orchestrated it all, and his army. To do that, you have to understand the world that molded both. You have to understand Africa, specifically the Sahara, circa AD 1009. Burning, merciless, a golden graveyard stretching for 3.6 million square miles. Inexplicably, many will tell you that Africans are alien to the Sahara, newcomers to the region brought in from south of the desert to meet labor demands of light-skinned populations, whose melanin count pales in comparison and is much less equipped to meet the desert's harsh demands. There's just one problem. These are the earliest images we have of life across the Great Desert. From its days as a green savanna 5,000 plus years ago, through to a time when it would become a sandy mausoleum to most of mankind, there has never been an acre of this region not first roamed, inhabited, and built on by people so-called black. In other words, Africans. As expected, archaeology confirms anthropology. This is the Tashwinat mummy, the desiccated remains of a child from an ancient site in the Libyan Sahara. Scientific examination in the late 50s revealed it to have been well over 5,000 years old, making it the oldest instance of mummification in Africa, and less surprisingly, that of a black, quote, negroid child. But it was an era long after the Sahara's verdure that would create the likes of Yusuf ibn Tashfin. Scribes from the Mediterranean west to the Abbasid east would travel to Africa's great desert and set down on scrolls the sights, sounds, and peoples they witnessed. Ibn al-Samani, in Kitab al-Ansab, the Book of Genealogies, 12th century AD. The Masmuda Berbers are men from the furthest point of the Maghreb, in the high Atlas Mountains of Morocco and surrounding areas. They are a tall and jet-black people who have committed to memory the Book of Allah, the Most High. Ibn Qutayba, in Kitab al-Ma'arif, the Book of Knowledge, 9th century AD. As for the sons of Kush, various kinds of blacks, the Nubians, the Zanj, the Zagawa, the Habasha, the Copts or Kept, and the Berbers are among their descendants. Ibn Khaldun, Kitab al-Ibar, the Book of Lessons, 15th century AD. The Veil Sanhaja Berbers originated from the land of the Habesha, the Abyssinians, and settled between the Bilad al-Barbar, land of the Berbers proper, and the Bilad al-Sudan, the land of the blacks proper. Al-Makrizi, Kitat, or Strategies, 15th century AD. In this climate, the color of the inhabitants is somewhere between brown and black. Nomads whose western tribes are the Jadala, the Sanhaja, the Lamtuna, and the Masufa, to which the nomads of Egypt who inhabit the oases are attached. Ali ibn Athirin, A Complete History, 13th century AD. Before the Almoravids ruled, they had worn their veil in the desert against the heat and cold, as the Arabs do, and were mostly of a deep brown complexion. Forged by the greatest desert on earth and the strictest codes of Islam, Yusuf ibn Tashfin, lord of the Almoravid Moors, did indeed wear the Tuareg veil, but it would not be enough to keep his features a mystery to history. Ibn Abi Zarun, Road al-Kartasi, The Garden of Pages, 14th century AD. He was pure brown in color, without a mixture, of regular height, thin body, sparse beard, black eyes, aquiline nose, with close-cropped kinky hair, a most brave, discreet, venerable hero, persevering in jihad, generous, abstinent from the things of this world, dressed in wool and never anything else. His food was barley bread and camel meat, till the day he died. Tashfin's description here has led many to speculate that he was what would later be known as mixed race. Hugh Kennedy, Muslim Spain and Portugal, 1996. Ibn Tashfin, slightly built with a sparse beard, black eyes and an aquiline nose, was probably half Negro. Wrong. More likely, Ibn Tashfin was of a Fulani ethnic component, one of the largest ethnic groups in the Sahara and across the Sahel. Hugh Kennedy's, then, is a speculation emanating from a long legacy of outsiders dismissive of black people's ownership of the African continent, the result of centuries of forced narratives meant to justify the European slave trade and colonialist arrogance. The Fulanis are a black African population spread out across the Sahara, which were described from the earliest of times in Greek and Roman accounts as Luca Ethiops, a phrase taken by English translators beset with their racial biases as meaning white Ethiopians who had perhaps civilized Africans at the dawn of prehistory, except Luca or Luca, from which we get lucid, Lucas, or Lucifer the light bringer, simply means light. Still, white Ethiopians was taken for granted by many as a correct translation for Luca Ethiops, confusing serious scholars for centuries until more fittingly translated in the 18th century as light or lighter-skinned Ethiopians. The Encyclopedia Britannica, 3rd edition, 1797. The kingdom of the Fulas is governed by a Muslim sovereign, but the bulk of the people appear to be pagans. From the circumstances of their long hair, their lips and comparatively light color, Major Rennell is decidedly of the opinion that the Fullers are the Luca Ethiops of Ptolemy and Pliny. The former places the Luca Ethiops in the nation occupied by the Fullers, and by the name which he gave them, Luca Ethiops, he evidently meant to describe a people less black than the generality of Ethiopians. But to confirm the Africanity of Tashfin and the men who would soon besiege Spain in 1086, we need look no further than this man, Abu Bakr ibn Umar, a fellow Namtuna Berber and cousin of Yusuf ibn Tashfin. This then is the man who Yusuf would usurp as king over the Almoravids, Abu Bakr ibn Umar, as portrayed and labelled on a 15th century Portuguese map of North and West Africa. Here Ibn Umar's blackness is tantamount to caricature. Jet black and clearly labelled in gilded font, Rex Abubakar. This was the man who would go on to found the Moroccan city of Marrakesh, later the imperial capital of Morocco. Originally a military outpost, Marrakesh was long thought to mean land of God, until historian Susan Searight discovered an 11th century manuscript in the Qarawiyyin library in Fez documenting Marrakesh as Marrakush, meaning country of the sons of Kush. Searight, A Maverick Guide to Morocco, 1999. This name was mentioned for the first time in an 11th century manuscript in the Qarawiyyin library in Fez and meant the country of the sons of Kush, or black people, since many of the troops accompanying Abu Bakr were black Africans from Mauritania. These are facts, proving the identity of those who won the day at Sagrajas. Arab in culture, yes, but African first. They were black, and they were Moors. Through sheer force of character and will, Tashfin had completed a coalition of these Moors, Saharan and tropical blacks, such as those from the Senegambia and Malian kingdoms of West Africa. Yusuf ibn Tashfin was not only a military genius, he was also an extraordinary diplomat, earning him formidable friends on home turf in the build-up to Sagrajas. Yaqut al-Amhawi, Kitab Mujaim al-Buldan, the Book of Countries, 13th century AD. The king of Zafun, or Mali, is stronger than the veiled people of the Maghreb and more versed in the art of kingship. The veiled people acknowledge his superiority over them, obey him and resort to him in all important matters of government. On his way to Hajj, this king came to the Maghreb to visit Ibn Tashfin, the veiled king of the Maghreb. The commander of the Muslims, Ibn Tashfin, met him on foot, whereas the king of Zafun did not dismount for him. He was tall, of deep black complexion, and veiled. Powerful as he might have been, Tashfin seems here also to be a man of humility, and it is this that likely secures him a reported 4,000 to 6,000 jet black commandos from the Senegambia region of West Africa, invaluable to his conquest of Spain. Medieval Muslim scholar Ibn Idari reports these men incorrectly as slaves, a mistaken narrative seized upon by the warpers of history seeking once again to remove the influence and agency of black peoples over African history. But a combined look at all relevant historical accounts, such as the ones you have just heard, proves these black troops were undoubtedly free men, battle-hardened and highly skilled mercenaries from the aforementioned kingdom of Zafun, known in other accounts as Tarkur. Medieval Arabic scholar Ibn Khalikan, predating Ibn Idari, states that these black men were Hasham, or in English, paid soldiers. With such a force behind him, Yusuf ibn Tashfin sets his gaze on Al-Andalus. But he is no warmonger. He is responding to a desperate call for help from the disunited Taifas, the Moorish kings of Spain and Portugal. Even Western historians admit that Alfonso VI is treacherous in his reconquista of Spain, lying to Spain's black and brown kings about the agreed locations for battle, ambushing on holy days, holding noblemen and women hostage, and raising the price of agreed tributes on a whim. From Africa, Tashfin responds to the beseeching letters of the Taifa kings of Spain with a chilling self-assurance. Once God grants me the conquest of Ceuta, I shall join you. Ibn Khalikan, Wafayat al-Ayyan, the deaths of eminent men and the sons of the epoch, 13th century AD. Tashfin is true to his word. In 1086 he joins the Taifa kings at the mutually agreed region of Sagrajas, known later to the Muslims as Zalaka, the steep or slippery place. The battle is agreed with Alfonso VI for a Monday, for the Christians worship on Sundays, the Jews on Saturdays, and the Muslims on Fridays. But Tashfin is no fool. He knows of the Europeans' most treasured code of war. By any means necessary, Sensing Alfonso VI would betray the sacred agreement, Tashfin sends spies throughout the region to monitor the enemy's movements. At daybreak, on Friday the 23rd of October, year of our Lord 1086, 2 of these spies arrive breathlessly at the camp of the Moors and report that Alfonso is about to attack Moorish camps in an ambush. Tashfin's response is cold and anticipatory. "I will approach him, inshallah." This painting might then well intend to capture a fleeting moment of the events of October 23rd, 1086. But fleeting it was, for after initially gaining the upper hand with his surprise attack, Alfonso proves no match for Tashfin's battle tactics, foremost of which are tactics of the mind. Castilian men of war had never witnessed anything like it. Today, military marching bands take the use of drummer boys for granted as a time-honored European tradition. But alas, they're doing it all wrong, for Tashfin's Africans were the first to do it. From the Ganawa culture brought to modern-day Morocco by Africans south of the Sahara, to the talking drums of the Yoruba, banned by American and Caribbean slavers for their potency to send coded messages among the enslaved, such as it is today, thus it ever was. Africans, lords of the percussive rhythm. Evidence? Cantar de Mio Cid, the famous Song of Cid, circa 12th century AD. Day dawned over the camp of the Moors, and soon they began to beat their drums. The noise seemed to make the earth quake. Many of us Christians wondered at it, for we had never heard the sound before. Before these 15 days, if it pleases the Creator, those drums will be placed before you, and you will see precisely what they are. It did not please the Creator. Tashfin's elite black corps decided the day. Ibn Khalikan, The Deaths of Eminent Men, 13th century AD. The wave of attacks and retreats did not end till the Emir of the Muslims ordered the blacks, his domestic troops, to dismount. 4,000 of them got off their horses and penetrated into the midst of the fight. Bearing shields of gazelle hide, swords of Damascus steel, and Zabian spears, they stabbed the enemy's horses and made them bolt from under the riders, so that each steed separated from its fellow. Alfonso overtook a black man whose stock of javelins had been spent, and meant to cut him down with his sword. The black man closed him, seized on the bridle of his horse, drew a dagger from his belt, and struck it into his thigh. The weapon pierced through the rings of Alfonso's coat of mail, entered into the thigh, and reached the padding of his saddle. This is no folklore. This account is corroborated by others, and is evidenced by the infamous limp Alfonso sported for the remainder of his life. Reports at the time said he came to Sagrajas with 60,000 men, and fled with 300. Exaggerated or not, one thing history records unfailingly is that Alfonso's reconquest of Moorish Spain was over. So, you see this painting? Quite clearly it's a mess. Done properly, the air should be a haze of blood and dust. Veiled faces revealing nothing but obsidian brows and frenzied black eyes ought to loom out of every corner. Frenzied, sleeveless, sinewy black limbs with curved blades for hands and fingers should be clawing at Castilian man and beast, fleeing the chaos. At the center of it all, the capstone. A young black warrior with grinding teeth on edge, eyes wide set with a righteous ferocity, plunges a Kopesh-like sickle into the spurting and spraying thigh of a wailing Spanish blur. You might be an artist listening to this. Inspired? Then return the favor by joining our growing community Follow us on our Instagram page at TrillBlackGram and get in touch with us with something more faithful to the true story of Sagrajas. Not an artist? You can help too. Support our work telling black stories the right way by joining our Patreon or becoming a paid YouTube member of the Trill Nation. 21 scimitars are raised to our highest ranking members. First, the Trill Nation's soldiers. Knight of the Golden Order, Colombian Guapo. Lord Admiral of the Moorish Armada, Bernard Go Hard. Protector of the Southern Lands, Tarseti Townsend. Duke of the Hallowed Dunes, coming to Africa. Keeper of the King's Hall, K. Wright Carr. And to the sages, you stand alone, receiving the Caliph's golden salute. Surveyor of the Seven Seas, Rush Begi. Conqueror of the troublesome North, Kakao Ra Senostret III. And Commander of the Faithful, Black Rampage II. Thank you all. Enter their ranks and hit the join button below today. At the very least, hit those like and subscribe buttons below now. Want more hardcore black stories? Click the next video on your screen. Calling from Kush to Compton, this has been Trill Black, no doubt.